you guys, it's Karen and I'm here with another little story time. And this time it's about how the chiropractor has injured me. So you guys will know I've been trying many different things to get rid of my migraines. And one of the things that I thought I would try is going to a chiropractor. Let me just tell you my history of going to a chiropractor. I first went when I was about 17. I remember that I was working a Saturday job and I saved up money in order to go and see a chiropractor because I had really bad neck pain. And I remember I went to see one in a place called Dunstable. I was living in Luton at the time and I went to Dunstable to see this guy. And he did these moves on me, which, I always say it's like, the neck one is like what you see in movies where they break somebody's neck and they just fall over and they're dead. That's what the neck one feels like to me. The back one, they lie you on your front and they sort of go like that on your back and it makes all sorts of cracks, as does your neck. Well, the guy scared the life out of me doing that, when I was 17. But I remember my neck pain was much better. And so I couldn't afford another session. I knew I was never going to be able to afford more than one session. It wasn't even known then that you need to go for a course, So I had that, never went back again until about, I guess it must have been 7 or 8 years ago, when I was working in the NHS and I was working in radiology at the time, and I made an appointment because I was having these migraines. So I've had these migraines for 17 years, but for the last 4 years now, they've been daily. So at the time they weren't daily. Sorry, I'm still sitting on the floor and it makes my bum sore. So I wasn't having the daily migraines, but I was getting these horrendous migraines. The migraines then were actually worse than they are now, but they were just less often. But they would literally be like, I wanted to die. I would be rocking and thinking, I would have gone to A&E had I not felt so awful, but I felt too much in pain that the thought of going out in the light, of getting in a car, of moving, of people talking to me, of sitting in a waiting room, all of that, I was like, there's no way I can do that. There's no way, just kill me now, So I went to this chiropractor and I saw him about 3 times. And I remember the first time and the second time I went, I happened to be in a meeting with one of the radiologists before I went to my appointment. And he was one that always talked. And I said to him, right, I need to go. I've got the chiropractor. And he said, oh, you'll have a stroke. I remember him saying that. And I was like, what do you mean I'll have a stroke? And he went, oh, you shouldn't go to a chiropractor. They're not medical people and blah, blah, blah. Because there's a lot of controversy out there about chiropractors. So I ignored him and went, and it helped. And then the second time he said, oh, you didn't listen to my advice, then you're still going, you will have a stroke. So I just kind of ignored it because it was helping me. But after 3 times, I think I started getting a bit worried about it because this radiologist was constantly telling me that I'd have a stroke. But also, again, it was just out of my budget, really. I'd gone for three sessions and it had helped, definitely. It helped my neck pain. I didn't feel like I was having as many migraines. And so I just kind of left it there. That guy was the guy that I saw recently that caused the injury, funny enough. I went back to a chiropractor, you may remember, just before Christmas, literally just before Christmas. But I went to one away across town that was recommended to me by somebody. And she was a woman and she used a little tool. She didn't do the manual adjustments, she didn't do the neck cracking and all that. She just used this little tool, which felt like nothing. She wanted a commitment that I would go 3 to 4 times a week for 3 months, I think it was. It was a huge amount of money. It was going to work out about £1,000. And it wasn't somewhere that was easy to get to. It would take me 2 buses or a taxi, which was like £15 each way. So I just decided not to go ahead. But I still was kind of left with nothing for my migraines. And so I thought, you know what, let me go and see the guy that I saw all those years ago when I was working in the NHS, because I know that I went to see him and my neck was feeling better. So let me give it a try. So I went to see him, and he's local to me as well. He was a funny character. He was very arrogant from the get-go. He was just like, he was asking me about my symptoms and what side things were on. And he'd go, what side is the worst pain? Let me guess, left. It's like I'm a magician or something, he'd say things like that. Very, very arrogant. But I just thought, you know what? I don't care if you're arrogant, because if you can help me get some kind of life back and not have neck pain and migraines, then I'm happy with that, I explained to him that the neurologist had told me that he didn't believe my headaches were coming from my neck, which I find really odd because the neurologist has sent me to get Botox in my head and neck, which would suggest there is some neck connection. But anyway, telling the chiropractor this, he was just like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about kind of thing. He didn't say that, but that's what he implied. Of course, it's to do with your neck. Everything's to do with your neck, that kind of thing. So I went through that whole process, and he thought he could help me. I was telling my husband, I think it's ironic though, you always go through this like hours consultation, and yet for every chiropractor I've been to, they do the same thing. They do an adjustment on the top of your neck and in the middle of your spine. I'm sure it isn't quite that simple, but that's what it seemed to be. And then he did an adjustment on my neck, so they do that move that to me looks like they're killing you. It feels like they're killing you. It's really quite unnerving. And then, pressing on my lower back to get some cracks in my lower back. I went away. There seemed to be a bit of improvement. I've spoken to you guys about it. I went back for my second appointment. On my second appointment, he said he had only done, let me get this right. I think he said he'd done L5 the time before. So this time he was going to do L4 on my neck and see if it aggravated the migraine. So that's what he did. And he did the lower back again. And I went away, and it did aggravate the migraine, but it didn't last too long. It was like a day and then it was gone. And so my third visit is when this injury happened, which was a week and a bit ago. So I went in and told him how doing the L4 had been okay. So he said he was going to try that again. He was going to try and get it to click on the right hand side, because they do it on both sides, so they do the hold of your head and they go on the left side, and then they do it on the right side, and it's you have to be in a particular position, and then he does one at the side as well, which I thought it's really weird. You lie on your side and he sort of pulls your arm underneath to get you in a particular position, puts your leg up like that, it's very acrobatic. So he tried to get the right hand side to crack and it wouldn't. And I remember thinking that's actually hurting my neck a little bit, because when they do the snap thing and it cracks, you sort of feel like there's a relief. But when they do it and there's no crack, I feel like it's just stretched something, I don't know, it doesn't feel right. And he did say, oh, don't worry, even if it doesn't crack, it's still doing something because of the pressure. And I was like, I'm not sure about that, because he was also saying, oh, Karen, you're being too tense, why I can't get this side to crack kind of thing. So that's what he wanted from it as well, even though he was trying to reassure me. And I said to him, it's hard not to tense up because it's not a pleasant experience, and he said even he's been having adjustments for 30 years and he still tenses up before having them, because they're not the nicest thing. Anyway, he then said, right, look, on your front and we'll do your back. He did my lower back, it cracked. He said, I'm going to do your middle back as well. And I can't remember why he said he was going to do that. So it was right in the middle of my back, so sort of under my boob and at the back, that position at the back. And he went, and I was like, I felt like he had broken something. It was so painful. And I don't know whether, I didn't scream or anything, I just kind of went, ow, that really hurt. And he sort of put his hands on me, like he sort of went like that. And I was like, well, that's a really odd reaction to me saying, ow, that really hurt, as if to say, you will get some pain from this. Anyway, I got up and put my shoes on, and he's talking this whole time, and I'm thinking, that was really bloody sore, that really hurt, But I didn't at that time notice that there was any after effect, other than I could still feel it hurting, but I thought that was just the impact of how much it hurt doing it. I thought, goodness, that was sore, and it's like I can still feel it, because my friend was like, I hope you didn't pay for that session, but I was like, well, I didn't really know that anything had been done wrong at that point. So he continued talking to me, told me that I needed to come back in such and such a time. And I went out, paid, and got in my car. By the time I got to my car, I was actually feeling really, really stiff and sore. And I could feel like I thought something has happened inside. I could feel it from, like I said, under my boob, in my sort of, almost in my rib cage to the back. And I was thinking, has he like broken a bloody rib or something? Like, what is going on here? And I was like, maybe this is normal, because he didn't seem to be too fazed, the fact that I was like, that was really sore, So I came home, and it was a really hard drive because I was holding the steering wheel, and as I was doing this motion hurt, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to sort of put this further down the wheel. And it wasn't dangerous or anything, I could still do it, but it was like I was literally going I needed to stop and get some groceries on the way, so I did that, but thankfully it wasn't big bags, so I wouldn't have been able to carry anything back big, but I needed a particular bread. I've been doing keto, so I wanted to get this keto bread. And I remember going into the shop and every movement, like pressing the lift button, I was like, So I was walking and I was like, you've got to be quiet because people are going to wonder what's going on. It was so sore, even walking. I had to try and sort of hold myself really kind of upright because any movement of my shoulder like that was just hurting. And then when I got to the shelf where I found where my bread normally is in Waitrose, it was right on the bottom shelf. And I was like, oh my God. But thankfully there was a guy there. And I said to him, I'm really sorry, but I've done something to myself and bending down is really sore. Would you be able to give me that bread there, because I was like, there's no way I can bend down to that bottom shelf. So he gave it to me. I went home, told my husband about it, and he was just like, I'm sure it's normal, he said, because he would have said, oh, why did that hurt, or tell me about it or something. And these things are pretty brutal, and so they probably are going to cause some sort of bruising. And I was like, okay, fair enough. Now, to let you know, I had never looked into the "you're going to have a stroke" comment that the radiologist had made to me, because I like to research things that I'm having done, but because I'd been told that and it had scared me off, I was at the stage of being desperate for treatment, and I knew that chiropractic might work for me, and I knew that if I looked it up and I researched it, I might put myself off, and I didn't want to put myself off. I wanted to go because if it worked, to me at this point it was worth the risk, But now having this, what I wanted to look up was, is it normal to get injured by a chiropractor? Like injured to the point of, not I'm just a bit sore, but like I can't properly move around the house. And I never slept on the Friday night either. It was Friday and I had no sleep that first night. Every time I went to turn over, I could feel it. But I couldn't find anything. I looked it up and I could not find any other examples of people having an injury other than really serious injuries. But of course, looking at that led me to the thought about you can have a stroke or not. And funny enough, I had discussed it with the chiropractor, Andrew, and I told him that the radiologist had said, oh, you're going to have a stroke, and he'd talked about strokes, and he'd said, I think that the people that have had strokes that have been shown to happen after they've been to a chiropractor, he said, I think they were going to have a stroke anyway. They had all the symptoms, but that was just the last straw, if you like, which made sense to me at the time. And I was like, well, if I was going to have a stroke anyway, better to be in a practitioner's office, if you like. But here I'm coming across it again, and I really started looking into it, and it was quite horrifying, actually. I wouldn't say, I'm not coming on here and saying don't anybody go to a chiropractor, but for me, with having migraines shows that you're more at risk of strokes. I already kind of knew that, although again, it's one of those controversial subjects, but it's thought that if you have migraines, you are more at risk of stroke. But what was horrifying is that if you have migraines, you're more at risk of getting this, was it called VBA dissection, where one of your arteries gets cut, basically, damaged, with these neck maneuvers. So from the neck maneuvers for people with migraines, there's more chance of this dissection happening, this vein damage, and that can then later cause a stroke. That's a completely different story to the way that he was saying, that it's the last straw and that it was going to happen anyway. No, these strokes that they were talking about, there was one woman, there's a model that died from this very thing, are that it is a risk of having the neck maneuvers, that you could get this damage to this vein and that can then cause a stroke. One of the other things that the chiropractor was saying to me, which in itself I suppose should have rang alarm bells, but he was saying, well, there's risks with everything, isn't there? There's a risk when you drive your car, there's a risk. And I was like, so that's you saying there is a risk, that you're accepting the risk. But, I suppose that is all part of what I learned in research. There are some things that it's just the benefit outweighs the risk. And that's what I had decided for me, not really fully knowing the risk. I just decided that I needed something, and I didn't want to look at the risks. But looking at it now, like I said, if you've got migraines, that you are at higher risk. And then I read that if you have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, you're at a higher risk of getting this trauma to the vein, because you've got more fragile connective tissue. And that for me, I was just like, no, there's no way. Because what I had said to Kev is, because at first Kev he didn't know about any of the risks other than the fact that I had this injury. And I said to him, the fact I have this injury has made me lose faith in the chiropractor, because what if that had been, like, he hasn't even discussed it with me. They've never told me that this is something that could happen. He wasn't that bothered when he saw that it hurt me. What if that had been my neck? Could there have been a more serious outcome than just whatever he's done, bruised a rib or something? And so that's why I was looking it up. And then when I looked it up, I was like, now I have 2 reasons that I do not want to go back to this guy. I said, number one, I've lost faith in him because this is a real proper injury. I still have it now. I can feel it leaning against the sofa. It's still there. I can now move, freely. I can still feel it at night a little bit. It's definitely healing. But an injury for a week that was that severe from a chiropractic, to me, doesn't seem to be normal. I can't find any evidence of that. But also him, I lost faith in him. And then reading all of these risks, I was just like, no, that's just not for me. And Kev agreed as soon as I actually sent him the research paper that I looked at that was showing about people with migraines, people with Ehlers-Danlos loss, and that, I think it was 1 in 20,000 it could happen to, or something like that. It was a scary figure, So I'm not going to this guy again. I probably should have got in contact with him and asked him what he could have done. I should have phoned and said, you've injured me. Like, I'm in pain. I couldn't sleep. You need to refund the cost of that thing. Or I don't know. I don't know if I should have done that, actually, because, it may be just one of those things that comes with having chiropractic. He might have just said, yeah, that's normal. I've probably bruised a rib or bruised a muscle, an intercostal muscle, But I just didn't want anything else to do. I didn't want to speak to him again. I got in touch with the receptionist and was like, please cancel all my appointments. I'm not going to be able to make any of them, kind of thing, and I just wanted that to be over. I just had completely lost faith in him and in having chiropractic treatment. I suppose I was lucky enough that it happened about the same time that I'd been to the GP, and I've got some pain relief for my migraines as a rescue medication, so I do have a solution, not the best one, but I've also got my next appointment with to have the Botox in 2 weeks now, I think it is, and then if that doesn't work, I'm getting an Aimovig injection, which is something else that could help. So there is hope for a solution to my migraines, and I also have pain relief for it, which made a huge difference in me being able to make the decision that no, I'm not going to take the risk. So that's what happened. I feel like I had a lucky escape, to be honest with you, because like I said, if he can do that to the middle of my back, whether he did the adjustment wrong, I don't know. Whether he was too rough, he was a very big man, I don't know, or whether that is just a risk of chiropractic. If that accident had have happened on my neck, could that have caused something more serious? So I'm glad I've gone through it. I'm glad I've now researched it, and I won't go back to a chiropractor. Definitely not. That will not be happening for me. And I'm, like I said, I'm not saying that you shouldn't go. I think if you're not going for migraines and you don't have Ehlers-Danlos loss, it's a much easier decision, perhaps because they won't be doing neck adjustments. It's down to the individual, isn't it? Some people like to research things, some people don't like to know. So that's everything for today. Let me know of your experiences with a chiropractor. Have you ever gone to one? Would you ever go to one? I'm sure there'll be people that tell me they work wonders for them, because the person that recommended me to the lady, she had gone in and couldn't walk because of back pain, and that was solved for her. And then her son had daily headaches, and he was cured also by the chiropractor. So I do think that it is effective. That's the thing that you think, well, I'm not going back, but I do think that they can be effective. But just for me, the risks are too high. So yeah, that's everything. Let me know what you think, and I'll speak to you again soon.